There's something about silence that makes most people uncomfortable. When everything stops moving, when the phone isn't ringing, when the plans aren't working, when nobody seems to notice you, that stillness feels like punishment. But what if I told you that silence is not absence, it's setup, that the quiet moments you're trying to escape are actually the spaces where God is preparing to move? You see, before the rain falls, the clouds gather in silence. Before the orchestra begins, there's a pause. Before the light breaks through the darkness, there's a moment when everything stands still. That silence isn't empty, it's full. It's full of divine potential, full of things aligning that you can't yet see. Sometimes the Spirit of God doesn't announce its arrival with noise or drama. It moves quietly, rearranging things beneath the surface while you think nothing is happening. We live in a world that glorifies noise. Everyone's talking, posting, rushing, chasing, but God often works in the opposite rhythm. When He's about to visit your circumstance, He first quiets everything around you so you can hear Him. That's why things suddenly slow down. That's why people drift away. That's why doors that were once wide open suddenly close. It's not rejection, it's redirection. It's the Spirit creating stillness so His whisper can finally be heard. In that silence, your impatience is tested, your faith is stretched, and your trust is purified. Most people quit in that stage. They think silence means nothing is happening. But let me tell you, God does His best work in silence. When a seed is planted, it's buried in the dark. You can't see its progress. You can't measure its growth. But that seed is breaking, expanding, and becoming something it was never before. That's what's happening in your life when everything seems still. The Spirit is breaking what needs to break so you can grow into what you were meant to become. So stop panicking because you can't see movement. Stop assuming silence means delay. Silence is where God hides His miracles. When you don't hear anything, that's not the time to doubt. It's the time to listen differently. Because in that stillness, God begins to whisper to your spirit, asterisk, hold on, I'm not late, I'm aligning. Asterisk, some of you are frustrated because you're asking for a move, but God is giving you quiet. You're praying for action, but God is teaching you awareness. Because if He moved before you were ready, you'd misinterpret the blessing as coincidence. So He waits until your ears are tuned to His frequency. When you stop chasing noise, that's when you start hearing truth. And I know it's hard to wait. It's hard to stay still when you want answers. But if you can stand firm in that silence, you'll realize something powerful. Peace doesn't come from seeing results. It comes from trusting the process. When you surrender to the stillness, the Spirit starts to work through you instead of just around you. You might think nothing's happening, but look closer. The silence has purpose. It's softening your pride, humbling your ego, teaching you patience, building endurance. You're not stuck. You're being shaped. And when God finishes the shaping, when the time is right, that silence will explode into motion. Things that were still will start to move. Doors that were closed will open without you knocking. And people who overlooked you will wonder how you rose so quickly. But it won't be quick, it'll be divine timing revealed. Remember, storms don't start with thunder. They start with a quiet gathering of wind and clouds. The silence before the storm is not Comet's power building. That's what's happening in your life. The silence you're experiencing right now is not a pause in your purpose. It's the gathering of everything that's about to rain down in your favor. Don't curse the quiet. Learn from it. Let it teach you stillness, because peace is power. When you stop needing noise to feel alive, you start becoming unstoppable. When your heart is steady even when everything outside you is uncertain, That's when you know the Spirit of God has truly visited you. Because the real evidence of divine movement is not noise, it's peace. So breathe, stop fighting the silence, embrace it, because that's where your strength is being forged. The next time you find yourself in a quiet season, don't say, "God, why aren't you moving?" Instead, say, "God, I know you're preparing something." Because the moment you accept that, you align yourself with his rhythm. And when your rhythm matches his, you'll see that what looked like a pause was actually a setup for a miracle. So right now, while you're watching this, take a moment. Don't rush past this silence. Don't scroll away. Just breathe. Feel that peace starting to rise in you. That calm awareness that something's shifting. That's not coincidence. That's the Spirit. That's power building. And when it moves, it's going to move everything. You ever notice how some of the most powerful things in life can't be seen? You don't see the wind, but you feel its strength. You don't see gravity, but it keeps you grounded. You don't see sound waves, but they move your soul when the right music plays. That's how the Spirit of God moves. Quiet, invisible, but undeniable. It's not something you always see. It's something you sense. The problem is, most people are too busy looking for signs that they forget to feel the shift. We live in a time where people say, "I'll believe it when I see it." But faith doesn't work that way. The Spirit doesn't operate on visible proof. It operates on invisible alignment. The unseen hand of God can turn things in your favor before you even realize it's happening. You think you're walking alone, but every step has already been ordered. You think the opportunity came by chance, but it was divinely placed in your path long before you asked for it. The Spirit doesn't need to announce its arrival. It just starts working. Think about the wind for a second. When it blows through a field, the grass bends, the trees sway, the leaves dance. You can't see what's pushing them, but you know it's there because you see the effect. That's how you recognize the Spirit of Goddess in the movement around you, in the shifts that don't make sense, in the moments that feel too perfectly timed to be random. You prayed for strength, and suddenly peace showed up. You prayed for direction, and somehow everything started falling into place. That's not luck, that's presence. But the truth is, we often miss it because we're looking in the wrong places. We want the sky to split open. We want the miracle to be dramatic. We want the sign to be obvious. But God works in whispers, not explosions. The Spirit moves in the subtle moments, in the phone call that comes at the right time, in the friend who encourages you when you were about to give up, in the delay that ends up saving you from disaster. That's divine precision. When you start to live with awareness, you realize the Spirit is everywhere. In the breath you take, in the timing of your encounters, in the coincidences that aren't really coincidences. Life becomes sacred when you stop looking for God in the distance and start recognizing Him in the details. See, the world will teach you to chase what's visible, titles, possessions, approval. But the Spirit teaches you to value what's invisible, peace, wisdom, and strength. You can't measure those things, but you can feel when they're real. That's why some people have everything the world offers, but still feel empty, while others have very little, but walk with a glow you can't explain. They've learned to live in tune with something unseen, and you know when you start trusting the unseen hand of God, fear starts to fade, because you realize even when things look out of control, there's a greater control behind it all. What you call coincidence, the Spirit calls coordination. What you call delay, the Spirit calls development. What you call failure, the Spirit calls foundation. The unseen hand is never idle, it's always arranging. Sometimes you'll only understand the move after it happens. You'll look back and say, "Now I see why that door closed." Now I understand why that relationship ended. Now I know why I had to go through that pain. But in the moment, it won't make sense. That's why you've got to trust even when you can't trace. The unseen doesn't ask for your understanding. It asks for your surrender. Every great blessing begins in the invisible. The seed must break underground before it breaks above. Your miracle starts in silence before it shows in sight. Don't let the unseen discourage you. It's proof that God is working because the Spirit moves differently. It doesn't need to make noise to make change. It doesn't need your permission to rearrange what needs to shift. It just moves, and when it moves, everything follows. Maybe you've been praying and saying, "God, I don't see anything happening." But listen, just because you don't see movement doesn't mean there's no progress. The wind doesn't have to be visible to be powerful. Sometimes it's the quietest seasons that carry the deepest growth. God doesn't need to show off to show up. So right now, stop worrying about what you can't see. Stop asking for proof. Start paying attention to the small confirmations. The peace in your heart when you should be panicking, the random opportunity that aligns perfectly, the way you're still standing when everything tried to break you. That's the unseen hand of God guiding, holding, and pushing you forward. The more you recognize that, the more powerful you become. Because when you learn to trust what's invisible, nothing visible can shake you. You stop being afraid of uncertainty because you know there's a purpose behind every step. You stop chasing signs and start becoming one. So tonight, tomorrow, whenever life feels unclear, pause, take a breath. Feel the air moving around you. That same invisible power holding the wind together is holding your life together too. You may not see how, but you'll see the result. Because the Spirit is always moving, even when you can't see it, even when you can't understand it, even when you can't explain it. And when the time is right, what was invisible will become undeniable. When God is getting ready to visit your life, He doesn't start with your circumstances. He starts with your heart, because if the heart isn't ready, the blessing can become a burden. The Spirit doesn't just show up to fix your surroundings. It comes to reshape you from the inside out. That's why before something great happens on the outside, there's always a deep stirring on the inside. That restlessness you feel, that discomfort, that pull, it's not chaos. It's construction. It's the Spirit preparing you for what's next. A lot of people pray for change, but they don't realize that the change doesn't begin around them. It begins asterisk and asterisk them. You can't receive something new with the same old mindset. God won't pour new wine into an old vessel. So before He brings new opportunities, new people, new direction, He refines your inner world. That's why some things suddenly stop satisfying you. That's why certain relationships start feeling heavy. That's why what used to excite you no longer gives you peace. It's not that you've lost your spark. It's that you're outgrowing your old version. The Spirit is upgrading your capacity, and that process is not comfortable. Growth never is. When the Spirit starts preparing your heart, it often feels like pressure. It's like being stretched in every direction. You'll start questioning things that used to feel certain. You'll find yourself facing truths you used to avoid. But that's necessary, because transformation doesn't come through ease. It comes through exposure. God brings to the surface what you've buried so that you can finally be free. Sometimes the Spirit will even isolate you. You'll look around and realize people you used to depend on aren't there anymore. You'll wonder why doors you could once walk through are now closed. That isolation is not punishment, it's purification. When the noise fades, the heart becomes clearer. You start hearing what you couldn't hear before. You start realizing that your worth was never in the crowd, it was in your calling. And while you're in that place of quiet preparation, something powerful happens. You start to see yourself differently. You stop chasing validation because the Spirit starts affirming you. You stop seeking control because you realize peace doesn't come from managing everything. It comes from surrendering to divine timing. You start feeling a deeper strength that doesn't depend on applause or recognition. That's when you know the preparation is working. See, when the Spirit begins to visit your heart, it doesn't ask permission. It rearranges what's not in alignment with your destiny. It removes people who were never meant to go where you're going. It exposes habits that were draining your energy. It reveals attachments that looked safe, but were actually slowing your purpose down. The truth is, some of the things we pray to keep are the very things the Spirit is trying to release. You can't carry old weight into new seasons. When God begins this process, don't resist it. Don't fight to keep what's falling away. Don't try to rush what's still forming, because every tear, every confusion, every delay, it's all part of preparation. Think about it. Before gold shines, it goes through fire. Before the butterfly flies, it has to struggle in the cocoon. That struggle isn't meant to break you. It's meant to strengthen you for where you're headed. And maybe right now you feel that pressure building. Maybe everything you counted on seems uncertain. Maybe your heart feels heavy, stretched, tired. Don't mistake that for abandonment. That's the Spirit's hand shaping you, stretching you, preparing you to handle what you prayed for. Because sometimes you're not waiting on the blessing. The blessing is waiting on you to mature into the person who can carry it. When God prepares your heart, He's protecting your future. He knows if He gives you too much too soon, it could destroy you. So He takes His time. He teaches you patience, humility, and wisdom. He allows you to lose certain things so you can learn that your peace was never supposed to depend on them. He strips away distractions so your heart can be strong enough to walk with purpose. You'll know your heart is ready when you stop asking for everything to go your way and you start asking for His way. When you stop trying to understand every move and just start trusting the movement. That's when you move from worry to worship, from panic to peace. Because once your heart is right, everything else begins to align naturally. And that's what the Spirit is doing right now. It's cleaning, it's realigning, it's preparing you for what's already written for you. You might not see the full picture, but trust that something divine is taking shape inside you. The waiting isn't wasted. The pain isn't pointless. It's all part of the process of preparation. So, when it feels like life is stripping you of everything you thought you needed, pause and remind yourself, this isn't loss, it's making room. It's not the end, it's the beginning of something deeper, something truer. Because the Spirit can't fill what's already full. It first has to empty you of everything that no longer serves where you're going. You may not understand it right now, but when the preparation is done, when your heart has been refined, you'll look back and say, it all makes sense now. The doors will open, the path will clear, the weight will lift, because the moment your heart aligns with divine purpose, everything around you begins to fall into place. Time is a mystery most people never learn to understand. We live by clocks and calendars, thinking that if something hasn't happened yet, maybe it never will. But divine timing doesn't follow human deadlines. The Spirit of God doesn't move according to our impatience. It moves according to purpose. When the Spirit touches time, it doesn't just adjust your schedule. It rewrites your story. One moment in the presence of divine timing can accomplish what years of effort could not. Sometimes it feels like you're running late in life, You look around and it seems like everyone else is ahead getting the job, building the family, living the dream. And you're still waiting, wondering why your turn hasn't come. But let me tell you, when the Spirit of God decides to move, it doesn't matter who got there first. Divine timing is not about who started earlier. It's about who was chosen for the right moment. The Spirit aligns everything in its perfect order. When God touches time, the impossible becomes instant. Think about it. You can struggle for years, pushing doors that won't open, chasing things that keep slipping away, and then one day, without warning, everything falls into place. It's not because you suddenly became more talented or more deserving. It's because the Spirit finally said, now, and when heaven says now, no power on earth can say later. But until that moment arrives, the waiting can test you. The silence can stretch you. You'll start to doubt if you even heard right. You'll start wondering if maybe you missed your chance. But the truth is, delay doesn't mean denial. The Spirit is not punishing you. It's protecting you. It's aligning the people, the places, and the pieces that will hold your destiny when it arrives. God is never too early and never too late. He's always right on time, His time. When you learn to trust that, peace starts to replace panic. You stop comparing your journey to anyone else's. You stop trying to force what's not ready. You start understanding that when the Spirit moves, it gathers every thread of your past, every mistake, every delay, every closed door, and weaves them into a perfect design. Nothing is wasted. Every moment you thought was lost is actually part of the alignment. The Spirit's timing is like a symphony. You can't rush the music. Each instrument must come in at its exact moment for the song to sound right. If the drum hits too soon or the violin lingers too long, the beauty is lost. In the same way, your life has its divine rhythm. Sometimes you're in a quiet verse, sometimes in a crescendo. Don't rush the song. Let it build, because when it reaches its moment, you'll understand why every pause and every note mattered. And let's be honest, sometimes divine timing hurts, because while you're waiting, you have to watch others receive what you're praying for. You'll have to clap for someone else while your hands are still empty, but that's not because you're forgotten. It's because your preparation season isn't done yet. You can't walk into a divine opportunity with an unprepared heart. The Spirit won't give you something that will collapse under the weight of your unhealed wounds. So it holds it back, not to deny you, but to develop you. And when it's finally your time, everything changes. Doors open that once refused to move. People who ignored you suddenly remember your name. Paths that seemed blocked clear without effort. That's the fingerprint of divine timing. It's not about struggle, it's about alignment. It's that moment when heaven says, now you're ready, and the earth responds. So don't curse the waiting. Don't despise the process. Every second has purpose. Every delay has direction. When God touched time in the past, He turned prisoners into kings, shepherds into leaders, broken hearts into blessings, and He hasn't stopped moving. The Spirit that aligned their steps is the same Spirit aligning yours. Your story is not behind schedule. You are exactly where you need to be for what's being prepared for you. The world may move fast, but divine timing doesn't compete, it completes. And when it's your moment, it won't require effort or force. It'll flow, because when heaven and earth align, everything that belongs to you will find you without confusion or delay. So if you're in a season of waiting right now, breathe. You're not waiting on life. You're waiting on timing. The Spirit is touching time on your behalf. You might not see it, but things are shifting, aligning, preparing. The moment you're praying for is already written. It's just not yet revealed. And when it arrives, it'll be so perfect, you'll realize why it couldn't come a second earlier, or a moment later. Because God's Spirit doesn't rush. He synchronizes. Every delay will make sense. Every tear will have meaning. Every disappointment will become a doorway. Most people pray for change, but what they really want is a transaction. They want something from God, not transformation through God. They want the situation to change, not themselves. But the Spirit of God doesn't move just to rearrange your circumstances. It moves to rebuild your inner world. Because until you're transformed on the inside, nothing around you can truly last. A new job, a new relationship, a new opportunity. They can all collapse if your spirit isn't strong enough to hold them. So when the Spirit visits, it's not showing up to give you what you want. It's showing up to make you into who you're meant to be. Transformation begins in discomfort. It's not glamorous. It's not easy. When God begins to work on you, He doesn't start with what's visible. He starts with what's hidden. The thoughts you never speak, the fears you try to bury, the anger you pretend you've let go of. He starts there. Because those are the things that keep you trapped. You can't walk into a new season with an old mindset. You can't live in freedom while holding on to chains you refuse to confront. So the Spirit shines light in those dark places, not to shame you, but to heal you. That's why sometimes the move of God feels like loss before it feels like blessing. You start losing things, people, habits, comfort zones. You start questioning everything. It feels like your world is falling apart, but in truth, it's falling into order. The Spirit doesn't destroy it, detoxes. It removes what no longer serves your growth. Transformation always requires release. Before a tree grows higher, it sheds its leaves. Before you rise, you must let go of what weighs you down. But most people resist this part. We cling to what's familiar because it feels safe. We say, God, change my situation. But when He starts changing us, we panic. We want the blessing without the breaking. We want the promise without the pruning, but you can't carry divine purpose with a fragile spirit. God strengthens you before He elevates you, and that strength doesn't come from comfort. It comes from transformation. Transformation means facing yourself. It means standing in front of your own reflection and realizing that some of what you've called strength was really survival. That some of what you've called patience was really fear. That some of what you've called faith was really control. The Spirit strips away the layers of who you pretended to be, so you can finally stand as who you were created to be. And when that happens, something powerful shifts. Your prayers change. You stop asking for things to be easy and start asking for them to be purposeful. You stop praying for quick fixes and start praying for lasting growth. When the Spirit moves to transform you, it will often test your reactions before it changes your results. You'll face situations that trigger old wounds just to see if you still respond from the same place. It's not punishment, it's proof of progress. Every test reveals whether the transformation is taking root. The same problem that once broke you now becomes your teacher. You realize you've changed when what used to disturb your peace no longer has power over you. And once that inner shift happens, the outer world begins to follow. You start attracting different experiences, different people, different opportunities. Because your energy changes, your focus changes, your language changes. The Spirit doesn't just bless you with things, it blesses you with clarity, wisdom, and discipline to maintain those things. That's why real transformation lasts while temporary change fades. Sometimes people will look at you and say, "You've changed." And that's exactly the point. You weren't meant to stay the same. Every divine encounter should evolve you. The Spirit doesn't visit to make your life more comfortable. It visits to make your soul more capable. You start walking differently, speaking differently, believing differently. You no longer chase approval because you've found peace within. You no longer fear uncertainty because you trust the one guiding your steps. Transformation is not a one-time event. It's a lifestyle. Every season will reveal another layer that needs refining, but the more you surrender to that process, the more powerful you become. Because power isn't loud, power is peaceful. It's knowing that you don't have to fight every battle, you just have to stay aligned with purpose. When the Spirit transforms you, your focus shifts from asking, "Why is this happening to me?" to saying, "What is this teaching me?" You stop being reactive and start being intentional. You realize that every challenge carries a lesson, every loss carries wisdom, and every delay carries preparation. You become grateful for what once frustrated you because you see now that it was all designed to grow you. And that's what real transformation looks like. Not a change in circumstances, but a change in consciousness. So maybe you're in that stage right now, the uncomfortable stage where things don't make sense, where it feels like life is stripping you down. Don't run from it. Don't resist it. The Spirit is working, shaping, forming something powerful within you. The blessing isn't coming asterisk after asterisk this season. It's being built asterisk through asterisk this season. You're not being punished. You're being prepared. And once you understand that, you'll never look at your pain the same way again. Because every divine move that looks like loss is really love in disguise. Love that wants to see you grow beyond who you used to be. When God's Spirit begins to move in your life, you will start to notice something. People, places, and even patterns that once defined you will begin to fade away. It's not rejection, it's redirection. The Spirit removes distractions so you can make room for divine alignment. You see, sometimes God will clear your path not because you're wrong, but because you've outgrown what once fit. When you grow, your environment has to grow with you. You can't carry the same conversations, the same doubts, the same energy into the next level. Some things are not lost, they're released, and the Spirit will make sure you release them even when you try to hold on. This is the part that hurts the most. You pray for God to move, and He does. But the first thing He moves is you. You thought the move of God meant open doors, but sometimes it means closed ones. You thought it meant new beginnings, but sometimes it begins with endings. And that's where faith is tested, because transformation feels like chaos before it looks like clarity. When the Spirit shifts your life, it rearranges everything. Your schedule, your priorities, your relationships, even your emotions. And it's easy to say you trust God when everything feels steady. But true trust is built when nothing makes sense. That's when you find out whether your faith is built on convenience or conviction. Sometimes God will make you uncomfortable to move you out of what's familiar. You'll feel a stirring, a restlessness that won't let you stay the same. That's not frustration. It's divine invitation. The Spirit is calling you higher, and to rise, something within you must break free. Growth always demands separation. When a seed breaks open, it doesn't look pretty, but that breaking is what allows it to bloom. And maybe that's what's happening in your life right now. Things feel like they're falling apart, but in truth, they're falling into divine order. You're being repositioned for purpose. Sometimes the Spirit will delay what you desire because you're not yet ready to handle what you've been praying for. The waiting season isn't punishment, it's preparation. God doesn't withhold blessings, He withholds burden, because what looks like a blessing at the wrong time can destroy what He's trying to build in you. The Spirit knows the exact moment when your strength character, and patience align with your promise. Until then, it will keep shaping you in silence. That silence is not absence, it's strategy. God does his deepest work in the quiet places when nobody's watching, when you're questioning everything. That's where he molds your faith, builds your resilience, and strengthens your vision. And when that inner shift happens, you'll realize something powerful. The move of God was never about changing your situation. It was about changing your sight. You start to see differently. You begin to recognize that every setback had strategy, every delay carried purpose, and every heartbreak had a hidden lesson. You realize that nothing was wasted. That's what the Spirit does. It redeems your pain and uses it to propel you forward. Even the tears you cried become seeds of transformation. Every no you received becomes protection. Every door that closed becomes direction. You start walking with a new confidence because you understand that divine timing is never late, even when it feels delayed. The Spirit moves to bring revelation. It opens your eyes to what's always been there, but you couldn't see it because your vision was clouded by fear or doubt. When you begin to see with spiritual clarity, you stop reacting to life and start responding to it. You no longer chase blessings. You align with them. You stop worrying about who left, who doesn't believe in you, or what didn't work out, because now you know that divine alignment removes what distracts and reveals what's real. You stop forcing and start flowing, because the Spirit doesn't strive, it leads. It doesn't rush, it unfolds, and once that happens, peace enters, not because your problems disappear, but because your perspective shifts. You realize that even in chaos, there's control. Even in uncertainty, there's order. You begin to rest in the truth that you don't have to understand everything to trust that it's working out for your good. That's spiritual maturity, to be calm in the middle of confusion, to smile in the middle of struggle, to believe even when you can't see the evidence yet. That's when the Spirit has truly transformed you from reacting in fear to responding in faith. And let me tell you something, when you reach that place, people will notice. They'll see that your peace doesn't come from things, your joy doesn't come from circumstances, and your confidence doesn't come from approval. They'll wonder how you keep standing after everything you've been through. And the truth is, you're not standing on your own. The Spirit is holding you, guiding you, carrying you. That's what divine alignment looks like. Walking through storms without losing your center. You stop fighting against the process and start flowing with the purpose. So if life feels uncertain right now, if everything around you seems to be shifting, don't fear it. Embrace it. The Spirit is visiting your circumstance. It's not a coincidence, it's a calling. You're being realigned with what's meant for you. Every challenge is shaping you. Every delay is refining you, and every detour is directing you. Trust that this movement isn't random, it's divine. The same Spirit that started this work in you will finish it perfectly in its time.